Good morning. Welcome to another
Okay, good morning. I think the network went off, so the moderator will join us shortly. I think the network is bad, so come online shortly.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So I think the moderator's network went off, so she'll come online shortly.
That's okay.
Sorry about that. Good morning. Good morning. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Millennials Hangouts. Yeah, we talk about different issues that concerns millennials, and generally everybody. We discuss very important topics and bring wonderful experienced people to shed light into these topics. My name is Eniola Olatunji from Business Day, and today we will be discussing business, finance, and personal development for millennials. Last month, in September, we discussed real estate investment opportunities for millennials. And today I'm quite honored to have this panel today. We have such wonderful panelists for today's discussion. And on my panel is Ifeoluwa Fashola. She is the Group CEO of Kidari. We have Temi Busari. She is an investment professional. We have Farida Kaber. She's the Group Head Growth and Brand Sudo Africa. We have Abiola Champ Salami. Is a world-class performance strategist, author and speaker, coach and strategist. We have Mr. Olanipekun Osundina, Divisional Head Corporate Banking, Greenwich Merchants Bank. So today, each of our panelists will be shedding light into what business, finance, and personal development for Millennial is. And on the Miss Temi Busari will be telling us in 10 minutes what she understands. She'll be explaining what the theme of today is to her. Good morning, Mara. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Eniela. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to open the conversation. So essentially, I just wanted to start by saying that the macro environment, always impacts businesses and our pockets directly. So I'm sure we'll all agree that, whatever is happening in the world or whatever is happening in Africa or whatever is happening in Nigeria always comes back to bite us directly, always comes, down to our pockets. So it's always very important to pay attention. So for example, right now, inflation is biting and we're all feeling it, right? And as millennials, we are anecdotally the largest percentage of the workforce. I'm a millennial myself, and I'm at that stage of life where I'm like, okay, what is happening? Where am I today? Where do I want to be in future? And we're also faced with the biggest reality. I don't know if you've thought about it, but you're like, we actually do have a finite number of years to work for. So maybe on the average, we've all worked for, say, 10 years, 12, 15 years, but we're not going to work forever. So maybe we have another 25 to go. And then you're starting to think, what kind of life do I have today? And then when I have to start, stop working, what kind of life am I going to have? How do I prepare for that? Is my standard of living going to fall, when I stop working, when I become a grandparent? What kind of life am I going to have? Am I going to depend on my kids? These are conversations that we probably didn't have or, think about 10 years ago, but it's starting to become very real because we want to take care of ourselves, we want to take care of our kids, and then retirement planning, is very key. So I wanted to shed light, on the importance of financial literacy. You need to know the basics for yourself. For example, for those of us who are business owners, we're worrying about sales or percentages or margins. At the end of the day, you just want to make a living, you want to have a successful business. And that's something that positive cash flow can help you achieve. You just need to pay attention. On the personal side, markets will always change, so being part of this demographic myself, I can think back to when the dot-com era was the biggest thing. There was a time it was as if the world was going to end. The new millennium was what we're all talking about. And then, the euro currency changeover, like the biggest in history. And then we've, talked about, when the credit crunch happened, I was probably just entering the workforce at the time. And then it's global oil markets crashing today, and it's Brexit tomorrow, and the chief of them being COVID, things that just happen and just shake the market. And you're thinking, if I had investments, it's all gone, or is this the time to go into the market? These are things that the markets are always, cyclical, things are always going to happen. So how do you know how to position? How do you protect yourself? What do you need to start doing differently to make sure that you actually start to see these market opportunities, whether it's on the global scale or in Africa, you start to see them as opportunities and not challenges, that help you make money and start to protect your investment portfolio and not, the otherwise. And when it comes to personal finance, it's not, yes, you can outsource it sometimes. You can just give your money to somebody and say, go do this for me. But it's more effective when by yourself, you start to understand, okay, what do I need to do? If interest rates are up right now, is this the time I should say whatever small amount of money I have, is this the time I should be buying, say, a treasury bill or a mutual fund? Or is this the time I should say, okay, I need to go into the equity market? Or is this the time I should go into a real estate investment? Even if you were to outsource it today and you said to me, Temi, what investment should I do today? And we sit down and say, okay, this is the investment you need to do. Very quickly, that information can become skill. It can become stale because I can go to bed and wake up and something different happens in the market. So it's about starting to pay attention, starting to learn these basics for yourself. There's lots of, resources online. You can employ professionals. There are, world-class coaches out there, money coaches, people that are actually professionals who understand this thing. They can start to teach you so that you can, by yourself, start to understand that, okay, this is what I need to do, right? And to cap it all, for me, my strategy is always about being more intentional. We're at that stage of life now where we have to start to manage, like I said before, short-term and long-term goals, and that's usually difficult. I'm sure we'll all agree, because again, sometimes your immediate needs are more than even the future that we're saying you need to start thinking about. You're thinking of home ownership, you're thinking about your kids, starting a family, marriage and all of that. But it's time to pay attention and start to think more long-term in your goals. And for me, I just always sum it up, with something that I called my four C's of financial success, where I'm saying you need to be, creative about earning more money. With the way inflation is happening, salaries are not increasing. It's like everything is more expensive. And somebody is saying, have a budget and all of that. And you're like, how am I going to make it happen? It's that time where you start to think, okay, what can I do to raise more money? What can I do? Am I going to have a conversation at work to say I need a raise? I know that that's not always possible. Am I going to start something small on the side? Are there any other skills I have that I can monetize? You have to start thinking about being creative to earn more money, because that's one of the best ways to beat this inflation and to beat how expensive things are going. Increasing your runway, having a bit more so that you can be more conservative about spending less than you earn, so that you start to leave something aside. So be more creative, like I said, about earning more money, be more conservative about spending less than you earn, be more consistent with your investing. It's time to start putting something aside consistently. Whether that is going to go into a mutual fund, whether that's a separate conversation, but you need to have something aside that is going to start thinking, catering to that long-term goal that I talked about. And finally, be careful about who you listen to. Are you going to get an investment coach? Are you going to open an investment account yourself? These things are free. You can walk up to an investment house today or all of these banks and say, I need an investment account. It's free. Start to put something inside, be more careful about who you listen to. I don't know if you've wondered about how all these wonder banks and all these MMMs, it's like they come and they have people, who give them money and they go, and you're wondering, why are people falling for these scams over and over again? A part of it is financial illiteracy and another part is greed. But if you're more consistent in your mind and I have a future that I'm building to, I'm not in a hurry, I'm going to be more strategic about this, I think you'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all that you mentioned. You mentioned that it is important to invest in educating yourself, being more intentional, looking for creative ways to earn more money, to spend less than you earn. And yes, these are really, really vital information, because I cover personal finance as a journalist, and these are things we write when we're writing about how to survive during inflationary seasons. Next, we'll be calling Mr. Abiola Cham to just run through the topic to tell us what business, finance, and personal development for millennials is. Mr. Abiola, please. Can you put on your video and your microphone and take the floor? Thank you. Mr. Abiola Salami. As it was on the call just okay. I think he's having network issues. Yeah, I think he's having network issues. So while while we wait for him, Mr. Olanikwekun Usudina, please, can you just give us insight to what business, finance, personal development for millennials should look like? What should millennials be doing towards their personal development in finance and business? Good morning, sir. So we can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you once again, Anila. Like I said earlier, my earlier colleague, she has given a proper introduction into this topic, and it gives us a way to start and to take it forward. I'll go a step further. I think let me just pick a few things she has mentioned, and I will take it from there. Understanding financing, taking the right investment decision, and if you're trying to set up a business, how do you raise money? I'll pick the last one you mentioned, which is the raising funds, which is where I pay majorly because I work in a financial institution. And I think there's a direct correlation between the business funding, financing, and personal development, because if you are approaching a bank to give you funding, to source for funding for a transaction, one of the things that the banks typically look at is your capacity. What have you done before? What knowledge do you have in that sector? Have you done similar transaction before? Do you have knowledge in that area to carry out that transaction? Apart from looking at the specifics of the deal or whatever you are doing, what I will say is this: personal development is very essential, because while I know that the advent of COVID era coming, a lot of changes has occurred in the whole world, and a lot of us now need to get closer to what we are doing, and which is where the investment opportunity comes in. For business, I'll come by saying that for you to have a business in anywhere you are right now, you need to even understand what you're doing. You need to have a basic, and I would look at it from the angle of even if you're going to a business, a small business, and you do not understand, there's nothing wrong in you starting as an apprentice, to start with someone to learn more about that business, so that it gives you knowledge, it gives you insight to what you're doing, and in that process, you can upscale from there. On funding, essentially, I would rather say that it's good to understand what you're doing, and it's very important to also align with whatever would also earn the optimal return. We've seen now that a lot of changes are occurring in the whole world, which is the reason why personal development is very essential. And I'll give you an illustration, which is what I always say, and I rather use this basic. There's a client who approached us, my former life, about 5 years ago. He didn't understand the business. He didn't have a clue, but he got a contract. And in the course of our conversation, we ended up with an idea that why not coming through a JV, do a JV with an existing company, a smaller company that has an idea that has consolidated something similar to that before. And the client went 6 months, 1 year down the line. The client returned with a JV structure, and that transaction was done. And the message I'm trying to bring out here is that when we're trying to raise business financing, it's not about just, sometimes it's better to even come in as a JV, you join some partnership with somebody that gives you a better insight, because for financial institution to be able to provide funding, they would like to even know what you've done before, what is the background, what knowledge you have, which is why I think we should marry the two together. Second thing that I also want to emphasize is the financing part. I think we now need to get more involved in what our finance is all about. The future is coming. A lot of us are also, like my colleague said earlier, we have few years left to work. Maybe we have 10, 20, 30 years left, and inflation is setting in. A lot of things are happening, uncertainties are going on in the world. And we've seen movements in the money market, in the capital market, and that's why I always believe that let's create a sustainable income trend. Let's create a sustainable income opportunity for ourselves along the line, which is why I will always say, for business owners, for business entrepreneurs that want to start a business, understand what you would like to do. If you do not have the skill set, go towards training, go and do an apprenticeship under somebody, learn a bit of what you want to do. And it's easier to come out for funding, and the understanding becomes easier in that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So you are emphasizing that people should know their business, know what it is they are trying to seek fund for. But there was something you said I didn't quite get. You said instead of them going alone or starting the business alone, they could seek partnership with somebody else. And you mentioned the word juvie. I'm not sure.
Joint ventures.
Joint ventures.
Because that means partnering with somebody who had done that same business before, who had actually had some successes. And that is the journey towards you sourcing for business financing, sourcing for funds to be able to start on your own. Because I'm sure we all hear that banks, financial institutions shy away from startups. But it's not so much in that space, not so much. What I always say is that if you have a good business analysis, you have a good business idea, and you've experienced some form of capacity, either by virtue of you teaming up with somebody, or you've gone through some training, or you've worked in an institution or a company that has done similar work before. In essence, that is no more a startup. You have the knowledge, you have the skill set, but just not in the capacity of the new company you're trying to set up or build.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Olanipekun. Thank you. So next, Mrs. Ife Fashola, she will be giving us insight onto our topic of discussion. Ma, you can take the floor.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Appreciation to the speakers that spoke before me. Looking at the millennial of today, and I'm looking in as an outsider, so I'll just give you my perspective. The millennial of today is not limited by the regular limits that we know. This is a generation that was literally born on the internet, and so they're very used to it. They're more versed with it. They're more likely to utilize it both for personal, social, and business activities. And that's why you have so many Instagram entrepreneurs who are millennials. One thing I say to mentees and people around me is that if you know what your strength is, pander to it, pander to your strength. Use the things that differentiates you to your advantage. Your internet savvy and your IT savvy, your technology savvy should not be taken as something that should be utilized only for leisure, but make the most of it so that somehow that technologically enabled lifestyle is also earning for you somehow. The millennial of today is not geographically limited. This is the post-COVID generation that can live in Nigeria, work in Canada, earn in dollars, and work in a totally different time zone without moving an inch. This is the generation that can have a work permit for a different country and never step into that country, but be resident professionally in that country. So I'd say that this is a generation that has no limits. This is also a generation in Nigeria that has not enjoyed much from Nigeria as a nation. I remember some of the things we enjoyed in our time. Most of us went to federal government colleges and government-owned schools, and they were good schools. We made lifelong friends. We met people from every strata of society, and that molded our worldview. This generation has not had that. this has been the generation of the haves and the have-nots. So you're either from a relatively affluent or middle-class family, and so you're privately schooled all your life, or you're from the other side of the divide, and there is little opportunity to mix, except on the internet. So these are the people that talk about the trenches, and the rest of us don't understand the lingo, even though we're in the same world. But somehow, we see them and the generation after them and how they were able to shape the social thinking in this country in so many ways. We think back to the NSAS protests and the impact that it made on the nation. So we see that millennials generally are very socially inclined. They can be idealistic, and they feel that they can change their world. So I would say go for it. And that's why you find so many entrepreneurs around amongst them. Because of that mindset, they bring solutions. They believe that they're solution providers and they're full of ideas. How do you translate this into money? Is my question. Millennials tend to love to travel. I've seen that around me a lot. They love experiential living. So you'd find that they don't have for them it's not a big deal to eat out all the time and experience stuff. All of this hit your bottom line personally. And so you find that they don't really have a lot of investments and savings. They live for the moment. And this is where the issue of personal finance kicks in for me. You're not going to be young and strong and full of ideas forever. A time will come when you would want to live on what you've made before. And so like Ms. Busari said earlier, you really need to forward plan. You need to put something aside for the future. And there are many opportunities out there. One thing I try to tame with the millennials around me is their risk appetite. A lot of them were the ones that went heavily into Bitcoin, into cryptocurrency, a lot of them did Ponzi's like MMM and all of that because of that fearlessness, you know. And so I try to tame the risk appetite and I say to them, you have to be careful. Not everything that glitters is gold. And because of their understanding, like I keep saying, of technology and great learning, a lot of them are vastly learned, very aware, very knowledgeable. Sometimes too much knowledge can be a problem. I tell people that whatever I do not understand, I don't invest in. I'm an investment professional. If I cannot see the fundamentals, I cannot get to the root of it. I cannot explain it to myself. I will not put my money in it. For me, capital preservation comes before growth. So the first thought should be this money that is in my hand, how do I even preserve it that I don't lose it? Then the second one is how do I make it grow? We can't go from one end of the spectrum to the other when we're thinking of risk. Risk has to be tempered. Risk has to be measured. Risk has to be taken knowledgeably and carefully. So that's my advice for the millennial. Savings are very important. Yes, you want to live for the moment. You want to eat what you want to eat. A new restaurant has just opened. You want to go there. You want to hang out there. You want to be with your friends. You want to be the in crowd, the eat crowd. And everything must go on social media. So how can this restaurant open and 2 weeks after it's not on your Instagram post? All of these do not define who you are. And success is not what the world sees. True success is when you go to bed at night and you have that sense of fulfillment that I'm okay today and I'm going to be okay tomorrow. It takes planning and it takes discipline. Financial discipline is a key thing. A lot of millennials that I know live above their means because they're trying to keep up with friends, or there's just this sense of entitlement that, if I want to have it, I can have it. Yes, you can have it, but must you have it? There's a difference. There's also that difference between wants and needs. And especially at this time where there's a global crisis. When people say, oh, things are hard in Nigeria, I tell them things are not just hard in Nigeria. Go next door, things are hard in Nigeria.
Yes.
Things are hard in Benin, things are hard in Togo. Things are hard in the UK. Things are hard in the US. Things are hard globally. There's inflation globally. There's issues globally. There's unemployment globally. As much as Nigerians are japping and going and all of that, those countries are still reporting numbers of unemployed. So what do we have here? Let's be circumspect. Let's be financially circumspect and responsible. I believe that they're an ideas generation, ideas and solutions generation, and so money comes to them, but then money goes out of them almost faster than it comes. And this is what we need to arrest. You need to plan for your future. I believe that the average millennial today should retire earlier than the set retirement ages because of the opportunities that you have. COVID brought a unique opportunity where you now have people holding down 2-3 jobs because they're working remotely. So your earning power is boosted tremendously. But you will not always be young and strong and able to do this. I have spoken to a few people who have done the 2-3 job thing for a bit. It's unsustainable. You're working in 2 different time zones, you're not sleeping. It's unsustainable. This body, no be wood. Rest is needed when needed. Relaxation is needed when needed. Leisure is needed. And human relationship is needed. You need to spend time with your loved ones. You can't be stuck in front of a computer the whole time. So somehow there has to be a balance. And I just chose to speak to this side of it because I believe that my colleagues on the panel have spoken to a lot of the other parts.
Yeah.
Let's bring some balance into it. The aspect of faith. A lot of people in this age bracket question things a lot. A lot of them are deep of faith. A lot of them are skeptical of faith. But I say we have to believe in something. Life is tough. You have to hold on to something. You have to draw strength from something. More importantly, you have to draw your values and your morality from something. So my advice to the millennial is balance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You really have so much knowledge on millennials, and you mentioned about millennials always living above their means and trying to be out there, trying to be at the latest restaurant. But we live in a time where there's the social network currency. So like you need to be seen, you need to be, even on social media, you need to be seen. Like if you're not putting like what you do out there, people won't, there's a belief that people won't know like what you're doing if you're not all out there, if you're not in latest events, or you're not posting on your social media and all of that. Although you ended what you said with balance, but I also think that there is maybe like there's a reason why the like millennials are always up and out there, like because that is how the world is evolving now. That's the way the world is going now. You have to be there, you have to show what you're doing. You just have to be out there. Do you understand what I'm saying, Ma? Or you disagree with what I'm saying?
So like I said, it's about balance. There's a time for it. There's a place for it. Anything you would do that would impact your business positively, yes. Putting a false narrative of yourself on social media is a totally different kettle of fish. You set yourself up. Sometimes the person that should help yourself will look at you and say, this one has more money than me. How can I help this one? Do you understand?
Yes.
So there's a lot of false narrative out there. And that's why I said use these tools for the things that matter, for the things that increase you, that improve you, and that, grow you, not just to create an impression that is not real, not to create an illusion. A lot of people are living illusory lives that leave them depleted at the end of the day. When they're by themselves, they feel shallow and empty because they know that what they've put out there is not real. Be the authentic, real you. The authentic and real you. Put it out there. That is the uniqueness that somebody is looking for. You see a lot of people and it's about marriage and this, and you see young people and they're struggling with relationships and everything because nobody really knows who you are. Your personality is not even easy to decipher or understand because you're trying to be this, you're trying to be that. You think this is what people want to see, so you want to be that thing. But there is a you in there that someone is looking for. And that person can't find that person because you're trying to be someone else or something else. So it's about balance and using everything that you have, all these tools, all this knowledge, all these ideas, all this smartness, using them for the things that matter.
Thank you, Ma. You also spoke about risk has to be tempered. You said millennials have like a very high risk tolerance because they invest in things like crypto. They invest in even Ponzi scheme because they want to make money fast. But this risk tolerance, this high risk that millennials have, it can also be geared towards investment, right? Towards more high risk investments, right?
So on the issue of risk and investments, I believe that there's a way and manner to many things in life. You will not say because you read on the internet that a particular drug is good for you, you start to inject yourself arbitrarily with that drug. You would still go to a hospital and let a medical personnel administer to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's a reason why some people are investment professionals. There's a reason why Temi Busari went and did CFA. CFA is not an easy exam to pass. Go and ask people that do it. Some people do level 1 3 times, level 2 3 times. It's like rinse and repeat before it happens. There's a reason why there's that rigor to it, because it is seen that these people are going to be, and they're going to be, what's the word? You're going to be handling people's lives, livelihoods, and future in terms of investment. So you're going to be entrusted, that's the word I was looking for, with a lot. So a lot is demanded of you before you're given that mandate. Now, when you, as an unschooled and unlearned person, just read something on the internet and they say, oh, this one is doing this percent, and you jump into it. Yes, you have a high appetite for risk, but be guided. Be guided by professionals, be guided by people who understand the fundamentals of what you're trying to do. And then take what I call informed risk. Do you understand? So that at any point in time you're going into any form of investment, whether it is high risk, low risk, medium risk, you fully understand what you're going into. So sometimes you might go into a high risk investment, but it's for a short time because you know that I can do this between this period and this period. And this is you set your limits, you set your stop gain and stop loss. Once I am hoping to make 10 naira on this, once it gets to 10 naira, I come out, even if it's still going up. Do you understand? I'm not moved by speculation or, okay, it's still going up, let's leave it there and keep it going. Because as it's going up, it can come down. So I'm not saying don't do high risk, but it must be informed, it must be controlled, and it must be guided.
Okay.
Otherwise, why do we have professionals?
That's true, that's very true. So I understand now, and I see that you are placing so much emphasis on doing things moderately and being informed at whatever you're trying to do. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you for shedding lights. Thank you, Mark. We have two more speakers that are meant to join us. We'll be waiting for them, but while we do that, we will just go ahead to the question and answering section. So for our participants, please, if you have any questions for our guests, send them to the chat box or the Q&A session. So if you have anything in mind you want to ask concerning the topic of discussion, please send it to the chat box and our panelists will do well to answer them well. So I have some questions that I already got that I'd like to ask. My first question, we're going to Mrs. Temi Busari. So how do I strike a balance between a long-term need and a short-term need for my personal development?
That's an excellent question.
Yes.
Thank you, Eniela. I first wanted to say a huge thank you to Ife. That was phenomenal. Like, I was smiling the entire time because I could relate. And then I was thinking, I hope there's going to be a Gen Z edition so that I can look from outside.
Actually, because a lot of people have been saying it sounds a lot like Gen Z's too.
Absolutely. That was a special perspective, just looking from the outside at millennials. I couldn't agree more, just in terms of like balance, being, taking calculated risk and being circumspect, because it's one of the things, and I alluded to that when I was speaking about how we all talk about it. Wonder banks come and they take all the money and MMM, and we're all talking about it. And there's a lot of, conversation online. And then give or take 12 months, another version comes and people still dive headlong into it. And I'm like, what is going on? Why do people keep falling for this? And it's just about that get rich quick scheme. I think society over time started to condition us into fast and flashy, and there isn't a lot of patience as a virtue anymore. And when it comes to your life, when it comes to your financial future, that is something that you need to take very seriously. So circling back to your question, just in terms of how you want to balance your short and long-term goals, it's never about what is in vogue. Investing isn't about what's the next best thing. It isn't about, oh, I'm in my house and my friend told me I just bought shares of this bank because I like the color of the flag and then I'm just going to buy it. Or, it's online, everybody's buying cryptocurrency, I'm just going to do it. What's the new fad? That's never about it. When you start to think about it, that this is my life, it starts to condition you differently. So what are your short-term goals today, right? Yes, we're thinking about the future, but you also want to live now. I'm not saying that you should start experiencing lack today because of the future, because somebody said that to me once, that nobody wants to die, but he wants to go to heaven. Like, you're thinking about the future. Should I die now? Well, my present is heaven, that sort of thing. But you have to be very strategic about it. So for example, if you have a short-term goal, say you want to do a master's degree next year, for example, right? You're saying that I want to start planning, or maybe I have or maybe my wedding is next year or in 2 years. I want to start putting money aside for that. That's a short-term goal versus a long-term goal of saying that I have an opportunity to increase my retirement savings by 1%. Let me start to increase that, maybe like a voluntary contribution, or saying that, there's this company or, you know, there's this professional organization that I trust, that I know that they have a good track record, and they have a real estate fund, and they are pulling funds, they're taking money from a bunch of investments, a bunch of investors, and these are all hypothetical scenarios. I'm not giving investment advice right now. I'm just giving an example. And they say that, you know, we're going to pull these funds, we're going to take money from all of you, and we're going to invest it into an estate or a block of flats, and your return is over 10 or 15 years, right? Or maybe for the people that earn USD, for example, you have an opportunity to buy a Euro bond, say a 15-year bond or a 20-year bond in US dollars. And you say, okay, you know what? Maybe I want my children to study abroad in 20 years. Maybe this is a good time. You start to bucket those goals. But then if you've noticed what I've said, everything I have said, I've tied it to a need. What is your goal? What is your obligation today? So it's different from Eniola to Temi to Ife to Olanipe. We're not all the same. Our lives are different. Our goals are different. Our objectives are different. So investing should tie to your personal goals, and it should tie to your personal risk appetite. For some people, capital preservation is key. I'm okay with 1% in the next 5 years. Don't touch my capital. I don't want my capital to change. For some people, they're saying, you know what? I have this amount. I have 10 million. Of that 10 million, let me have 7 million that nothing will shake. Or you see that 3 million, I'm happy to put some risk. I want to increase. Maybe let me put this in the stock market, or I'm happy to say, okay, let me increase my risk on that one and see if that one will grow to 5 or to 6 or to 7. But you see this 7 million, nothing can touch it because it's for my children's school fee, you know? So that's how you start to think about it, to say, what do I want today? And there's also something that is very important that I talk to people about, an emergency fund. It's not just a fad. You know, as Ife was saying, you know, you want to go to slow, you want to go to all the, you know, restaurants, you want to spend all this money. God forbid you lose your job next year or next month. How are you going to feed for the next 6 months after that? So it's always good to also have some cash, just some liquidity somewhere. It's an emergency. You know, God forbid there's a health emergency. Yes, God forbid, we're Nigerians, yes, but this is life. It happens. Insurance is there for a reason. Or something happens in your family that, you know, so it's good to have, in terms of goals, in terms of bucketing it, it's good to have a small fund somewhere, just an emergency fund to say, okay, you know what, this one is my sleep well money. This one is just some cash I have here. God forbid something happens. Then I have other short-term goals to say, next year, I want to go for my master's, or next year I want to buy a car. Okay, let me start. How do I prepare for that? And then my longer term goals of saying in 20 years, I need to have my house back. God forbid, in the next 10, 15 years, I want to be a house owner, or I want my children to go to, my child is 3 years old now, but my dream is for you to go to Harvard. You have to start thinking about it. So you have to bucket your needs. Just what do I want? What are my goals as a person? What is my goal? What is my aspiration in life? How can I start to think about it? How can I start to fund it? And that is what informs your investment strategy. It has to be an objective versus investment. It's never, oh, I just want to invest in this for that. No. How does it tie in to what you want for yourself?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I also realized that as millennials, or even Gen Zs too, it is easier to want to attain, like now things that are in the moment, like I want to have this now, but we don't find ourselves trying to, I check myself on that. Sometimes I'm like, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. But I'm like, and you're like, you don't ever say that, oh, you want to have so and so amounts in your savings, or like, I'm not attaining we don't attain for financial stability or like investment securities as much as we attain for some things like cars and all of that. And I also think that there is like a social construct that makes us just want other things and not better things like financial stability and all of that. So yes, like you mentioned, if you are thinking about, oh, in the future, I would like to have like a house at so and so points in my life, I think I will be thinking more of, oh, my activities now are not aligned with my goal of trying to have a house by so and so time. So thank you so much for your contribution, Ma. Thank you. My next question is to Mr. My next question is to Mr. Olanipekun Osudina. If, sir, while you were talking about things that the bank look forward to for businesses trying to get funding. So are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Yes, you're saying there are things that banks look forward to when businesses come to get funding. So what are these things? What are the requirements for some of the things you look out for? And I said, you mentioned joint venture. And what else do you look out for in a business before you decide to fund these businesses?
All right, good question, Ella. Thank you very much. Well, my comment was relating to maybe like startups or small business, basically. So that's what I'll focus on, I think, for the purpose of our conversation.
Yes.
And I highlighted the fact that we hear so much around that financial institutions do not fund startups. And I think the reason for that is largely because of lack of experience or previous record of similar transaction that has been done. And what I mentioned is that typically what banks look out for is aside what you're bringing, what the business is all about, the business idea, if the business makes sense, the next thing is to now look at the individuals behind the company. What have they done before? Do they have the capacity to execute the transaction? And like I said earlier, new companies, but the individuals behind the companies have done something similar in some other form, in other companies or as employers or as employees or as partners in other companies. And those are the things that the banks want to look at. And it's not so much about the company, because if you just incorporate the company today, it's clear that you won't have any track record. But as an individual, what are the things you've done before? Have you done similar business before in some form of capacity, or even it's on a small scale? And I think the whole idea is to look at how you would utilize the fund, how will you be able to, deploy it to what you're trying to do. And one of the things they also look at is the individual. What sort of qualifications do you have? That's where I linked it to personal development and you seeking for knowledge in things that will also, propel you, give you a better outlook in terms of what you're trying to do. So aside the usual things that they look out for, the specific of the transaction, the character, the integrity, the capacity, which is what I've said now in terms of linking it to what you've done. And ultimately, there are times where business as startups, you've not done something like that before, and you believe it's a good business, you've done an analysis, you've done a project review. And that's why I said, you can always form a partnership with somebody who has done it before. Of course, that undergoes some due diligence on your own part to be able to be sure to have the clarity that it's a business that will be, would go well and it will be self-sustaining. So you need to do a bit of due diligence on the party you would like to engage, which is a partnership, a joint venture, or what have you that you want to look at. And among all this, once you're able to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, I think, the whole idea is to support the business, and ultimately the funding would come in. So it's all about how you project yourself. And that's why you find out that some individuals, they employ people to help them, put together their documents, like a project review or a project dimension, to be able to project your business to the bank in a better way that it becomes sellable and acceptable to them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. See that a business owner should project themselves well to be able to get this fund. So thank you so much, sir. My next question is to Mrs. Ifelua Fashola Ma. Someone asked that, how can I make a budget that still allows me to live the life I want? And are there apps or that I can use? That's Mrs. Ife Fashola. Especially, it's very hard to keep to a budget during this period of inflation. So how can one make a budget and still live the life that he or she wants? That's the question somebody sent to me, Mark.
Okay, good question. Thank you. I remember, when I was younger and even up till now, I use Excel. I have before I got married as a single person, I had my personal budget was on Excel. And as I got married, I just increased the line items, and the parameters changed, but the formats didn't. And for me, it's always been a case of what is my disposable income? Disposable income comes in after you have taken care of the necessaries. And if you look at it in developed nations, when they want to give you a mortgage, your mortgage is not based on your total earnings. When they want to offer you a mortgage, they do what they call an affordability index. That is based on your disposable income. They will ask you, what do you spend money on? They ask you who you are owing. They ask you, do you have a car? Is it outright bought or your lease? How much is your monthly car lease? How much are you spending on your dependents? How much? So at the end of it all, they come out with, despite the fact that you earn £5,400 a month, your disposable income haven't taken care of all these things that you cannot but take care of. You've paid your student loan, after that is where you arrive at disposable income. They then look at it and say, so how much monthly repayment on this mortgage can she or he make every month? And it is based on that they make you an offer. If you can live your life like that, make yourself an offer every month of what you're able to spend. At least you have a ballpark. You know the things that have to be done. A lot of Nigerians, people that I know, because of the way this thing is structured here, rent. So you find that beginning of the year or whenever it is their rent comes due is a stressful time for some people, and particularly for a lot of millennials who've moved out. They live on their own, they have rent, but they don't prepare towards it. So it's as if they expect that some heaven miracle or manna will fall around that time and their rent just get paid. But it doesn't work like that. If you put aside something every month, knowing that rent is in November, every month you put something aside where you've already tenored it, you will not have that unnecessary stress. And that is what budgeting is all about. Look at the entire picture, big picture budgeting, holistic. What are the things that I must do? They come first. Put them on this. I know your generation might not like spreadsheets. I'm sure there's an app out there. Unfortunately, I didn't research that one before coming, so I'm sorry. I'm sure you'll find it. Please, when you find that app, share it with me. Maybe I'll migrate from Excel finally as well.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, let me just use the example of what I'm used to, which is Excel. Put it on and put all the things that you must do there. This amount towards my rent as a saving for whatever. This is what I need to say. Even for those that already have children, September does not have to be a tough time. Every term, beginning of term, does not have to be stressful for you. Put something aside monthly so that you have accrued by the time the expense crystallizes. So live an accrual lifestyle. Instead of, I have 100K today, and so I'm spending 100K today. The fact that you have 100K in your account today does not mean you have 100K to spend. So it's about outlining what your necessary spending is and ensuring that you put money aside towards it. And then whatever is left after that is your disposable income. And that is what you live that life on. You know, you said to be able to still live life and hang out and do that. That should not be based on your disposable income. Your disposable income will determine how much life you can live and how much hanging out you can do. I think it's as simple as that. It takes discipline, but it can be done.
Thank you.
I'll tell you one thing.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Right after my master's and everything, and I started working, within the first year, I bought my first house. I was in the UK. I bought my first property. At the time, all my friends were buying, all of us that got good jobs, everybody, there was this particular BMW that came out then that had this convertible, and you know, the roof could go down and everything. And I know quite a few of my friends bought it that summer because it just came out and it was £12,000, I remember. And people just bought it down. I spent the same £12,000 as deposit on my first property. I still have that property now. You know, I have a daughter in the UK now. She has a place to stay and all of that. So there's a time for self-gratification, but there's also a time to sow seeds towards your future. My friends, I looked very stupid then because I drove the least hot car. I had a Honda Civic. I didn't even buy it new. It was the 2-door one. And my friends used to call it Tuke or whatever. It was a sound car. It wasn't a banger, but it was just a small car. And everybody had nicer cars. But, you know, it wasn't my goal. Like Temi said, you should have your goals. I felt that I looked at how much I'll be paying in rent, over £1,000 a month. It didn't make sense for me to be contributing to someone else's mortgage. So I made that decision very early on in life that I'm not going to pay rent. You know, I'm not doing this. So, you know, it was difficult at the time because it was as if the bulk of my money was going towards paying off my mortgage every month. But it paid off in the long term.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that example. Thank you, Ma. So my next question again is directed towards Timmy. Someone said that, should I have a financial planner? And how do I find one? You mentioned something about it when you were talking earlier. How do I find one that's right for me and isn't going to cost too much? Yes, I also think that people do not realize that the roles of financial planners. So, Ma, please, can you take us through what a financial planner would do? And how do I find one that's right for me and is it going to cost too much? That's what this person said.
Thank you, Eniola. That's an excellent question. A financial planner, like Ife also alluded to earlier, is somebody who is qualified, right, to give you financial advice. So it's not just anybody. It's somebody who has put in the time, the efforts, the resources, the education into knowing all of these financial instruments, into helping you craft a financial plan that will fit into your lifestyle, that will work for you, that will help you achieve your goals. Recently, I know that there's been a growth in the amount of investment clubs. I have a few friends who have those. People have investment clubs, people come together, you know, do some research into the market, explore investment opportunities, and they pull funds together. That helps, you know, if by myself, I have, say, 1 million naira, you know, that limits the kind of return I can get, for example. But if 20 of us come together with 1 million naira each, then we have 20 million naira. We have a bigger financial muscle, you know, we're able to earn more. But what's more important would be the credibility and the track record of the person running that fund, right? So people also go for money coaches. There are a few of them. There's lots of resources online, and which is why I always talk about you at least starting to learn the basics for yourself. You know, if I stepped into a store today and I picked up maybe an item of clothing, and I'm sure we all do that. You can look at a pair of jeans, and just by looking at it, you know, this is not my size. Or you have an idea, it might fit, just looking at the waist, maybe it's my. So by yourself, if you have a bit of an idea of how things should work, if somebody comes and starts to tell you lies, you're like, nah, that's not for me. That won't work for me. Or if somebody tells you, yeah, potentially, I think what you're saying makes some sense, you know. So developing yourself is very key. And that's the aspect of financial literacy. And research also supports that if you're financially literate, it supports that you are able to have a better financial life, because when people understand financial literacy, when people understand finance and the market and the impact, they want to partake. When you know that if I do this, my quality of life is going to be different, they want to partake. So I think the most important thing for you is start to learn by yourself. I'm not asking everybody to go out there and do CFA or ACC and everything. That's not, realistic, but you can go online, for example, and learn what is a treasury bill. What kind of instrument is this? Let me even learn about loans. There's good debt, there's bad debt. Should I be taking a loan, for example, to fund Dirty December? Why? That's something we all do, But why don't I start putting 15,000 naira aside every month from January, so that in December I can floss, right? But my children's school fees is still aside. Let me start to learn about debt. Let me start to learn about the stock market. Why are people scared of the stock market? Why are people, start to learn bit by bit by yourself. And then you can approach a money coach or an investment professional, or even some of these big organizations. You'll be amazed. There are investment firms in Nigeria today that you can walk up to and say, I want to open an investment account. It is free. You open that account, you'll even be surprised that they have products that they offer to customers where they have investment professionals that they've employed who are doing research and saying, okay, we're going to pull these funds and we're going to invest here at no cost to you. You are just going to open that investment account. You're just going to fund it. And these organizations have, they've existed for years, some over 100 years. They have track record, they have credibility. So it's about, just in a nutshell, to put it all together, what I'm saying is that you need to learn the basics for yourself. You need to approach a professional. It could be in personal capacity or in terms of a group capacity or an investment group. And you can also walk up to the organizations we have in Nigeria that we all know. I'm not trying to do adverts for any organization today, but this is something that I even do in personal capacity. I do for a few people. We can also have that conversation online to say, look, how can I benefit? Who are your contacts? Who can you introduce me to? What organizations do you know that can offer so and so? This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I have in mind. How can you help me? There are a lot of people who can help you. Just make that move. And again, by learning yourself, you learn to even ask the right questions. It's easier for me to help you if you're asking me the right question. But if you're asking a miss and you're all over the place, I'm like, what are you trying to do exactly?
Thank you so much for answering that question. You answered it well. You spoke about earlier when you were talking, you spoke about monetizing skills. Like now it's time to get learn more and get other and get other source of income. So how can one go about that? Do you advise to, aside your job, maybe I as a banker now, what other skills would you encourage people that are doing things that are very professional, rigid professional jobs where it's not easy for them to just do something else? What other skills that won't take so much of your time would you encourage? Because we're also talking about personal development aside personal finance. And in what other ways do you think that as an individual one can develop him or herself to just, like you said, so many things are going on, COVID this time, something else another time, to just have a good standing in the world right now? What other ways can you develop yourself, and what other skills can someone in a very rigid profession engage in?
That's a matter of interest, Eniola. The world is limitless. This internet world, we are the internet, generation, as she said before, it's limitless. I'm a professional, as professional, financial professional as they come, but I used to sell human hair. I've sold bags. I used to be a TV presenter. I do investment coaching. You are limitless. It's a matter of interests. When it comes to earning money, there's nothing like, that's a dirty job. We millennials were also the Instagram cook generation. We're ordering pots of stew on Instagram. Somebody is in their house cooking seafood okra and selling to us for 15,000 naira, and that person is earning money. So it's about you, like your opportunities are limitless. What are you interested in? What is that thing that you can do so well that you can earn money from? People sit in their houses in Lagos, Nigeria, and write for other people. They help them write. There are lots of websites where you go, you help people write articles, or people have even written articles and you're just going in there to help them proofread and spell check, and you earn something. People go online and teach other people how to do Excel. They earn money. People go online and teach business analysis. People go online, they learn how to code, and they start to do coding on the side. So that's what the internet is for, research. I know people that have learned a skill by self-teaching on YouTube. You'll be amazed the kind of resources, even the things I search on YouTube sometimes. I'll be like, let me just search, and I'll be shocked because it's there. Somebody has actually done a video about it to teach you how to do the most mundane, the things that you cannot even imagine. So honestly, it's a matter of choice. It's what are you interested in? What is your environment today? What does it allow you to do? What kind of job do you have today? What do you think you can do on this? I've sold human hair from the trunk of my car. I'm working in the bank. When I close, I'm going to drive and come and deliver hair to you. So it's a matter of choice and just being hardworking and thinking about, what kind of service, what else can I do? What else can I offer? Because when it comes to offering a service or a solution, people will always pay for it if it's fulfilling a need. So that research is for you to do, but there are lots of opportunities around you, believe me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, I just want to add to what Temi just said. I remember, I drew some examples for you from my personal life. Then when I lived in England, I was raising a family. I worked in the city. I worked in investment banking. But one thing that I love to do, for me, my way of distressing was to cook. I love to cook. And so on Saturdays or in the evenings, I'll come back from work and I'm cooking something or the other. And then I found that I used to have a lot of unnecessary visitors because, after our friends would know you. And my friends knew I would cook in the evenings or on Saturday or at the weekend. So they would drop in and then they would come with these little Chinese packs and say, I should say jollof rice. Yeah, okay. Do you have stew? Okay. You made a four. Okay. Oh, you made lasagna. Everybody had their own thing and they knew I would make them. So I said, wait a minute. So if people think I'm coming here for free food, no wahala. Don't bring pack to come and visit me. Order. So by Wednesday, place your order. What do you want this weekend? I'll make it for you. Nobody liked to make moi moi. It was like, who wants to make moi moi after working all week? But for me, that was my own recreation. I'm blending beans, I'm playing worship, I'm cool. So I'm like, place your orders. You know what? I found that at some point, I was paying my mortgage completely. You know how I said paying my mortgage was my priority then? I was paying my mortgage completely from my side hustle of cooking. And I was not cooking. I was cooking for myself. I just increased the quantities for all these long close friends that would come anyway and made them pay for it, So there's always something in you that is you. And you do it kind of like effortlessly. And you can monetize it. But until you think about it, you're not going to do that. My daughter went to the French school here. So she's very good at French. So when she was telling me during the summer, I need to get a job, I said, you don't need to get a job. Just reach out to family, friends, and ask if anybody's kids need help with their French. You tutor, 20 pounds an hour. You're not going to earn that even if you go out and you're washing plates in McDonald's.
Yeah.
You can do it from the comfort of the living room here and all of that. So there's always something, there's a gift in us. And, that is it. That is God, There's always a gift in you. There's always something that you do, you're proficient at, it's fun for you, it's enjoyable for you, and someone else finds it an absolute chore or drudgery. Offer to do it for them. I have a younger mentee who does people's wardrobes. You see, she's those people, you know, those people that when they fold your clothes, you'll be wondering if they use ruler to measure. Everything, all the t-shirts will be the same length. I don't know how she does it. I think it's crazy. But look, when I've scattered my stuff, I call her. Anita, come on. She does it, I pay her 20K. She arranges my wardrobe. It's okay for the next 4 months. I'll be scattering it bit by bit until I get to that point where I have to call her back. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So there's always something that is just you, it's easy, it's fun, and you can make money out of it. And somebody is glad to pay. There's always someone that's glad to pay for it because for them, it's a big deal.
Thank you so much for that. That was very, very insightful, especially for me. Thank you so much. I also would like to ask. So you mentioned earlier that millennials like to enjoy and all of this. So if as a millennial so far, I haven't been investing, or say a millennial hasn't been investing, is it too late to start? And if I would start, like how do I know what to invest in, or like, where do I start from?
Okay, it's never too late. It is when the person wakes up that is their morning. So if you wake up at 4 p.m., it's still good morning, you will say first before you realize it. A bit ahead. So it's never too late to start. Now, where do you put money in depends on so many things. Like Temi said earlier, she talked about your goals. So your goals for saving will determine, is one of the factors that determine where and how you save. Your risk appetite comes into play. Your disposable income comes into play. Everything we've talked about here this morning comes together to determine how much can you save, where should you put it. When you start getting to a certain stage in your life, you should take less risky investment decisions. Or like Temi said, split it, hedge your risk. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Determine how much of your income can go for high risk, how much of it can go, or how much of your savings can be put in high risk, how much can go in low risk. High risk is things like equities, sometimes cryptocurrency is super high risk, so you determine how much you want to put towards that, because the returns can be high, but the returns can also be zero. And you can lose your money. The low risk are typically the bonds and the treasury bills and the fixed term, fixed income instruments. And those ones will yield you less, but you are assured that your money is not going anywhere and you're going to have some modicum of growth on them. So it still all circles back to talk to a professional, understand the market. Don't do it carelessly. Be disciplined about it. Be consistent about it. When you said, is it too late? It's not too late. Consistency is key. Whenever you start, consistency is what drives the objective and drives the achievement of the objective. Consistency is key. So seek advice, be guided, be informed, be consistent, and it can be done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mark. Please, to our participant, please, if you have, still send in your questions. I can see them, but you can send in more. We are expecting one of our guest speakers. He'll be joining us soon. That is by very, very soon. He'll be joining us. And while we are that, we still have a lot of questions coming in for our panelists. And on businesses again, I would like to ask Mr. Olanipeku that is there a limit? Do I put that limit? Is there, say, do you give these loans, these fundings to businesses based on their size or like the scale of their businesses, or is there like a very on is there an unlimited access to loans if they can prove that they need it, if they can prove that their business is what the amount they're looking for, or there is a particular amount for the size of a particular business? Like, it's the size. My question, or the question I'm trying to phrase is the size of a business very important to the amount the business can get, the amount of loan the business can get? Mr. Olanipeku.
Can you hear me? Daniela, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Oh, sorry, I think it must have been my network. Okay, my answer to that would be yes and a no. Yes, in the sense that if it's an existing business, whatever you've done prior years plays a major role. And we can be taking it in two ways. Sometimes financing is just to keep the business flowing, make it more liquid, or it could be an expansion you are trying to do. Expansion will mean you're upscaling your business. So the question is, by how much volume are you trying to upscale? By 25%, by 100%. Sometimes the numbers can be humongous. So most time, one of our roles is that we provide financial advisory, and we say, rather than upscale from 10 to 100%, why not take it on a graduated basis? Move from 10 to 25 to 55. And I think that will also create room for you to also monitor your business and see how it pans out. Because sometimes it might not necessarily be expansion you need. It might actually be to even stay on the level you are and keep your business more liquid. So that's why I said a yes and a no. But for a startup, definitely the business you want to do, the project, how do I put it? The project numbers that you've put on the picture would also go a long way. What are you trying to do? What if you are trying to play in an existing market? Who are the players already in that space? How do you want to come in? What are your penetration strategy that would help you to graduate to the level you want? So a major role is, one, what you've done prior years, and that speaks to your numbers. But for new business, it's critical to look at the market. Who are the major players in that market? How do you want to penetrate into that market? And how do you want to drive the numbers? So the numbers must come in a way that seems achievable. And sometimes we do what you call sensitivity analysis. We sensitize your projection to see if let's try and scale down the numbers. Let's see what the business will look like. So it's a yes and a no. It's hinged on the volume for prior years, and for startups, it's important that you upscale in a manner considering the market you are trying to play in.
Thank you. So another question just came in. Is this that do you ask, or do you find out what's the loan, what they're trying to do with the loan? And would it be wise to try to secure a loan for, say, rent for a business?
Okay, purpose is critical. Sometimes what you're funding, what you need a loan for. Okay, so I'm sure we'll be hearing of, you want to do a car loan as a business owner, and sometimes some people will prefer to do lease rather than having the asset on your books. You can get a lease and you still have the business running. So sometimes it's good to have an idea what you want to do, and our role as financial institution is that we provide such services. We advise on how the funding will be structured to suit the purpose that you're trying to achieve. So I didn't get the second part. What was that? What was the second part?
Well, I was saying, like, would I asked initially if you asked for the reason, and also if the person said if it is for rent, would you still give it for that purpose?
Why not? Why not? Rent it's classified as the working capital, and it's not as if it's not a negative sign of the business. Mean that the way you sell the way you carry out your sales will be on a credit basis. So you're expecting, you've done a contract or you've done a job, you're expecting proceed in about 90 days, and your rent is due now. While you might not have all the money, there's nothing wrong asking for a working capital, a short time to bridge that gap when you will eventually have the money from the job you've done. So yes, it's linked together.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all my amazing panelists on this particular session of Millennials Hangout. So I'd just like to ask, is there anything anybody from the panelists would like to add, something you realize they didn't say that you like to add? Now you can just say it now, and before we end this particular session. It was amazing having everyone on this panel. Please, is there anything anyone would like to say? Miss Temi, Mrs. Ife, and Mr. Olani Pekun. Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything we've missed out that you just like to say? Your final notes.
Okay, I saw that you went back a bit on the issue of loans and business assistance, financial assistance for businesses and all of that. We're advisors, so we're investment bankers, we're advisors. We do corporate finance. This is what we do for a living. And I just wanted to add a bit of advice out there. A lot of businesses are very unstructured. And when I say unstructured, you know, your accounts are not in order, you don't keep your books well, your governance structure is all over the place. Who are the directors? Who is management? One man show is you. One who will sign for procurement, who will sign for buying, who will sign for paying is the same person. And all of those are red flags to someone who wants to fund your business, who wants to either give you either loan or equity or whatever form of finance you're trying to access. Because they can see that there's no check, no balance, there's no other person helping you to think things through. You know, maybe you have one junior accountant somewhere who just keeps the books in a haphazard manner. There's no other head. They say two heads are better than one. There's no other head in the business except one. So the business is open to what they call a key man risk. If a car knocks down the business leader tomorrow, the business is crippled for as long as that person is out of business. If you're on holiday, the business suffers. So a business has to attain a certain level of structure before it is mature and right for external funding. And that is something that a lot of business leaders and owners don't understand. A lot of entrepreneurs don't understand. So they're just going out there, they say, oh, I can't get a loan, people are not giving me money. The idea is great, the idea is fantastic. But you need to mature the structure. You need to grow the structure. There needs to be a framework that inspires investor and funder confidence. And that is what you don't have. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to acquire the overheads that you can't afford. It doesn't mean you have to hire people you can't afford to pay. But there are ways in which you can outsource certain functions to advisors, to this, to that, so that you have the support that you need in the business. And that can be showcased to someone that wants to put money in your business to show that there's some kind of structure that governs this business outside of this one person that I see. So it's just something that I wanted to throw out there for entrepreneurs out there to think about, that one man show is not going to cut it, especially when you're looking for other people's money. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So overall, you're saying like people should have structure to their business, keep their books intact, and just have like a structure that shows that you're not over everywhere, you're not all over the place when it comes to your business. Thank you so much. Mrs. Temi, is there anything you'd like to say to round up?
Absolutely. I'll just round off with the issue of discipline. I think discipline cuts through the three verticals we're discussing this morning. Business, personal development and personal finance. As a business, you need to be disciplined. You need to, if you're bleeding cash, like you said, nobody's going to lend to you. You need to put your books in order. You need to demonstrate that you are bankable for a bank or for any investor or any institution to want to support you. You need to show that you're developing, you're keeping a premium on capacity building, you're developing yourself, you're putting your books in order. Everything is disciplined. That inspires confidence to support you. Your personal finance as well, a lot of discipline. You cannot use all your 10 fingers to eat at every point in time. You need to be very disciplined. And of course, with personal development as well, a lot of discipline, whether you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to get another certification or whatever it is you're trying to do, you also have to put personal discipline to ensure that, you're excellent. So let's all place a premium on that. It's always a good idea. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of my panelists. Mr. Olanipekum, is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, just one last comment from me. We know business involves taking risk, and at whatever level we're going to make decisions, let's ensure that the risk is well evaluated, is well calculated, so that at the end of the day, we don't take a wrong decision that would eventually throw out the numbers and we're back to square one with our finances. So let's take calculated risk. In the return, we're looking at, let's not be in a hurry. Let's graduate it. It's an era of, we call it the microwave era. Everybody wants to get things done quickly. So let's take it bit by bit, and I'm sure if we keep that going, the business will turn out well, and let's put our mind to what we're doing. And more importantly, personal development. Everybody has said that, but I think we need to also improve on our personal development, what we do, what we know. And there are a lot of sites, there are a lot of apps, there are a lot of information out there that we can get ourselves equipped with, and that will ultimately impact on the business that we're going to get into. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me on this session. My name is Eniola Olatunji. For rounding up, my colleague Esther Ohari will be rounding up. She's going to share something to say. And Esther, please take over.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to all our speakers. Thank you all for being on this panel today. We really enjoyed it. It was wonderful having you all on board, and we want to say very thank you on behalf of business. So to all our participants and speakers, we have an top 100 SMEs. So can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Oh, okay. So I just want to say thank you to all our speakers for coming on today, for participating. We hope to have you on board next time. And also, we have a seminar coming up, an event coming up, a conference award coming up in December, top 100 SMEs. So once the participants to also take time to subscribe, and also the speakers, it will be fun for you to register and good. So we'll send you an email concerning it. And thank you once again. We really appreciate. Have a blessed day, everyone. Bye.